Everyone, welcome once again to A.O.S Abroad. Thank you very, very much for joining today's wonderful episode, and I'm so glad to have everyone. All right, sorry about that. Today, thank you once again, as I said, for joining, and we want to really discuss the new Canada immigration processing timings. Do you understand? The new processing times that we have for Canada immigration. For those who are just joining us, you know that when it comes to Canada immigration, their processing times differ. Do you understand? The processing time for maybe study permits is different from the processing time of work permits, is different from the processing time of visitor visa, the processing time of permanent residency, the processing time of citizenship, passport, and you understand, very different other programs, right? So today we want to discuss what do you need to focus on when it comes to the processing timings. What do you need to know about the processing timings of Canadian immigration? What do you need to be aware of when it comes to the visa processing times of Canada? Right? Now let's move on. Let's discuss. And we are going to be making use of the IRCC's updated processing timings as was actually written. It is a blog article that was written by Caroline Minks, you understand, on cicnews.com. And it was published on October 4th, 2025. Do you understand? So if you are coming to Canada, if you want to be part of those who would benefit from the Canadian visa, if you want to have the advantage of having a Northern American visa, you understand, with you, whether it be the study permit, whether it be the visitor visa, whether it be the work permit, any visa whatsoever. Today we are going to be discussing about the processing timings as it relates to you, as it relates to um countries, or let me say national foreign nationals who are coming from outside Canada, or even those that are inside Canada as well, right? For those who are just joining, we are saying we are going to be reading through the cicnews.com website blog article on this particular topic. And the title of the blog that I'm going to be sharing with you today, if you go on the cicnews.com website, is the IRCC's updated processing times. You understand? Once you go on the website, you can see it is one of the very trusted websites when it comes to Canadian immigration. Now, let's actually discuss this in details. If you are just joining, for those that are joining on YouTube, joining on TikTok, join on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, thank you very much for joining. Really do appreciate to have you on board. Right. Now let's move on. Um in the article that we have today, Canada's Immigration Department, IRCC, has just released its latest processing times, right? Latest processing time for what? For permanent residency, for temporary residency, and for citizenship application. So when it comes to immigration, when it comes to you really staying or coming to Canada, when it comes to you being part of those who are either residents in Canada or those that are citizens in Canada, there are three basic things, three basic services that IRCC, the Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, focus on. They focus on three major things, right? And we know humans really understand when it comes to two to three things. The three things that they are focused on, IRCC, is one, temporary residency. Temporary residency. Thank you very much, Duke Ishim, for liking our TikTok live. Really appreciate that. Now, there are three major things that IRCC is really focused on, that their whole department is main focus is based on. Number one, temporary residency, as I said. If you are a student or you are coming in as an international student, you are under the temporary residency. If you are a temporary foreign worker, you want to come and work in Canada for 1 to 2 years under a contract, you are a temporary resident, right? If you are a visitor, you came into the country or you want to come into the country and tour the country or to visit your family and friends, you are what? A temporary resident. Do you understand? If you are even a refugee, or no, not let's say refugee, you are an applicant under the asylum, you have claimed asylum, you are now waiting for your verdict that, okay, am I going to be approved or am I going to be rejected? At that level, you are still a temporary resident because you have not been given the PR status yet. Do you understand? You haven't given the PR status. So that is the first thing that IRCC focuses on: temporary residence, whether for students, for workers, for visitors, or for what? Refugee claimants, those that have just applied for their asylum claim. Right? Now, when we leave that aspect, when we focus on the permanent residents. Oh, Connor says on TikTok that, can I pray for you? Of course, you can pray for us. Thank you very much. And based on my own belief, most times you don't even need to inform people that you want to pray for them. You can pray for them privately without actually informing them. But if you want, yes, you can also pray for me physically or publicly. Lol, Connor says I was joking. Thank you very much for that. So let's move on. Um The permanent residence is the second way IRCC works. Is the second thing they focus on. People like us, we are permanent residents in Canada, right? And for those who want to be permanent residents in Canada, you can either choose to come into Canada as a permanent resident directly from your home country. You understand, especially when you land in the airport and they confer you understand, the rights, the status of permanent residency to you. You can officially become a permanent resident. Thank you, SRT Appa, for liking on TikTok. But you can also come into the country like many people do. A lot of people do. Maybe they come in through the study permit. You understand? They come into the work permit. They come into the visit visa. And after they have actually acclimatized with the society, they will now apply. In other words, apply for a new program, a new pathway, a new residence, which is the permanent residence. And people like us, we came from Nigeria down to Canada. Thank you, SRT Appa, for liking the live. We came from Nigeria down to Canada and became, you understand, permanent residents on the spot at the what? At the port of entry, right? But the two ways that we have mentioned now is the temporary residents, those that are coming to study, work, visit, or coming to claim asylum. And once you now want to become a permanent resident, you can either go to any of the flagship programs like Express Entry, like Provincial Nominee Programs, which was the one I went through. You understand? Even refugee, once you later get approved to become a refugee, you are going to apply through the what? Through the protection. You understand? So refugee protection is going to actually support you to become a permanent resident, right? Now, there are other various programs. You have about 80 plus different programs for permanent residency. Any one of which you are coming through, the IRCC also focuses on that. The last part, because if you look at the first part, temporary residence, is for people that are not, you understand, in the country already, people that were not born in the country, people that, even if they were not born in the country, they are not yet qualified to actually be someone that the country would hold in high esteem, right? Temporary residency, permanent residency, people like us, we are kind of in the middle. We're in the middle. We are neither temporary residents nor are we the fully based Canadians. We are not really those that have the full rights, even though we have more rights than temporary residents. Do you understand? The last part of IRCC's job is the what? The citizenship applications. Citizenship applications for people like us, if we want to become naturalized, you understand, in the country, we can stay here for 3 years after becoming permanent residents, and at the end of the day apply for what? Citizenship. Or people like, okay, take for instance my child being given birth to in Canada would actually claim citizenship on the spot, will claim citizenship by virtue of birth in the country. Do you understand? Now, we also have citizenship being passed down from generation to generation. We also have people that are living, working, you understand, doing everything in the country as citizens. That's the last part of. So, when it comes to IRCC's scope of work, they focus on these three major things: temporary residency, permanent residency, and what? Citizenship. So today we want to talk around those three different applications you can apply for, whether you are a citizen or a non-citizen, whether you are a foreign national or you are not a foreign national, right? Let's move on. So in this article, we will examine how processing times, do you understand? How processing times for various immigration applications have changed since what? Since September 10, 2025. Okay, Duke Ishim is saying, hey, how are you? All right, so we're going to talk about how it has changed drastically. Also, we are going to talk about the significant shifts in processing times are almost evident in spousal sponsorship applications for those living in Canada and planning to settle in Quebec, and in Canada dependent child sponsorship applications. So let's really explain that, because there are some people that they are currently living in Canada, they are citizens of Canada. You understand? They have the full rights of a Canadian. Do you understand? Now they may desire that, okay, yes, I have someone I want to get married to, and maybe the person is in Canada already as a temporary resident, not yet as a permanent resident, because most times when you're a permanent resident, they don't even really need spousal sponsorship under the permanent residence level. So it's really meant for those that are not permanent residents to become what? To become permanent residents, to become, because family sponsorship, unlike other countries that once they want to sponsor you, you become the citizen at once. No, it doesn't work like that in Canada. In Canada, you will first have to go through the PR route. Everybody that comes, nobody gets citizenship almost immediately. Nobody gets citizenship by virtue of you just dropping lump sum amounts of money. Do you understand? You become a PR first. You understand? Stay in the country for some time, and after that, you understand, get your citizenship, right? So the shift, they said the significant shift in the processing time were felt in spousal sponsorships, those that want to sponsor their spouses, their husbands, their wives, their common law partners, you understand, to reside, to start living and, you understand, settle in Quebec, or those that have children that are adopted outside, or even biological children outside that they want to actually sponsor into the country, right? Now let's look at the various applications. It's very important you know the various applications, and in line with knowing the various applications, know the ones that, yes, you would feel the various changes in, you understand, visa applications. Now we are starting with the permanent residence applications, especially the one that I mentioned before, which is the express entry. The express entry, mind you, they said that for express entry, the application type, we have various application types under this express entry, and the current processing times differ from the processing times as of September 10, 2025. Do you understand? Now, express entry application type, the Canadian experience class, for those that are in Canada through student visas or work visas and want to become permanent residents, the current processing times for them is 6 months. Is 6 months. But before September 10, 2025, it was 5 months. So it shows that it has increased. Man like Ayo, thank you very much for joining. You just joined and you have started liking the live. Really appreciate you. Thank you for joining the live at A.O.S Abroad TikTok channel. Now let's move on. So as we're saying, the Canadian experience class, 6 months duration. It will take people to, from being international students in Canada or being temporary foreign workers in Canada, to be able to switch from that towards permanent residency. But if you are coming in under the federal skilled worker program, it will take just 5 months. 5 months. Before September 10, 2025, it took 6 months. Now look at this. So people don't understand these things. And that is why we always come here to analyze things for you, so that you really understand what it really means when it comes to immigration. I, for instance, I came in through Canada under the Federal Skilled Worker Program as at the year 2023. Do you understand? Now, someone that was in Canada too already before me, but was studying or was working and wants to become a permanent resident, that person would have needed to wait almost the same time to become permanent resident, just like me that I'm coming from Nigeria. Because you being in Canada does not mean that they will not process your application for permanent residence. They will process it. And in processing it, it will take time. The time it takes, now, if you look at that, within the Federal Skilled Worker Program and the Canadian Experience Class Program, it takes 5 to 6 months for both of them, right? Under the Federal Skilled Trades Program, that program has not really had a lot of applicants for some time, so the processing time is not applicable in this instance. So basically, when it comes to the service standards for all express entry programs, whether be it Federal Skilled Worker Program, Federal Skilled Trades Program, Canadian Experience Class Program, is mostly 6 months. So it's always falling within 5 to 6 months, 5 to 6 months, and sometimes it can even be lesser. Sometimes it can be a little bit farther, but the idea is it's always within that range, that 6 months average. Now, provincial nominee program is another program that I came into. Do you understand? The provincial nominee program was linked to the federal skilled worker program that selected me, because the province that selected me was the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program, OIMP, right? Now, for the application through the express entry, which was the one I came into, the enhanced provincial nominee program, the current processing time for that is actually 7 months. And before September 10, 2025, it was 8 months. I remembered my own. Mine took 8 months. My own processing with Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program, it took say 8 months, right? Now, if it is not now linked to express entry, if it is not linked, thank you SRT Appa and man like higher for liking once again. If it is not linked to express entry, it takes longer, because that is the non-express entry based provincial nominee program. That takes 19 months. Just like even before September 10, it took 19 months. So sometimes some people will say, oh, I got selected. Oh, I got picked. Oh, sometimes the selection process differ. And in line with the processing time, the selection processing getting to differ, the processing time as well will differ. You that you got selected under Quebec, you are different from someone that got selected under Ontario. For me that got selected under Ontario, I can expect that within 7 to 8 months they respond to me. But for someone that is coming under Quebec, especially for non-express entry based programs, it can take 19 months. 19 months is 1 year and how many months? 7 months. 1 year and 7 months. Me, within 7 to 8 months, I get my express entry under Ontario nominee program. But someone that is going under Quebec, we have to wait at least times three period, or times three timing before he actually gets responsive. So you have to be patient enough for those kind of programs. Now, the processing time for base streams may also differ based on when an applicant submits their immigration application to Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, IRCC. You understand? It is not every time, because now you have to understand something. Many of these application processing timings that they are giving us is based on the fact that you submitted a full application to IRCC on time. If you didn't submit a full application to IRCC on time, it can even take more time than the general 6 months, general 5 months, general 19 months, and things like that. Do you understand? So the service standards for enhanced PNP application is 6 months, just like the express entry, because it is linked to express entry. But the base PNP applications, it has a service standard for 11 months. But as you see, we have seen 19 months. So 19 months is even more than 11 months. Sometimes it can be more, just like we say, sometimes it can be less. So because many of our clients would always want to ask, after like 2-3 times of meeting them or answering their questions, the next question they always want to ask is, how long will it take for me to get my visa? And I do tell our clients, I tell even our team members that this question most times is a trap. It's a trap because we have experienced it severally. Sometimes you tell people the exact timings as at the time they wanted to get started with the application, as at this time they wanted to get started with working on their documentation. But because you don't know the future, 3 months down the line, 4 months down the line, 6 months down the line, the processing timings may change. And of course, it always change. But you have already said that, oh, it will take you 5 months. And they started the application with you, they started working with you. At the end of the day, they realized that it took them 11 months to get that same thing. Sometimes, even at a point, even after 11 months, some of them have not even gotten what they want. And it will now look as if you are lying. Meanwhile, it's not that you were lying at that particular time. That particular time, the processing time at that particular time was truly 5 months. But because you don't know, or because you oversimplified it for them, it is that 5 months they will hold. It is that 6 months they will hold. Not understanding that, you understand, it would always take, or it might always take more than that. I remember in our live sessions, in our webinar presentations, I do always give the service processing timings based on that particular period that I'm running that webinar video. But even at that, I would also give my own story that, yeah, so even at that, to me, it took me from 2018 to 2022 to get my full documentations right. It now took me from 2022 to 2023, 11 months for me to get my own, you understand, application approved and for me to move to Canada. But people would forget all those explanations and they will say, Shebi, you answered the question in the webinar, which stated that it will take 6 months. So it is that 6 months thing. They forget that I also give explanations of my own applications that took longer than 6 months. And that brings me to the point again that there are no absolutes when it comes to immigration. There are no absolutes. Do you understand? Sometimes application processing time may favor you. Sometimes it may not favor you. The major thing is for you to get what you desire. And even many people, many clients, I also tell them that, take for instance, you got disapproved. In other words, you got rejected, you got refused of your application now. That does not mean that if you reapply, you are not going to get it. There are no absolutes. If you even get banned from Canada today, yes, we say there are different kinds of removal order. If they give you removal order, deportation order, you understand, all those orders, they have different meanings. There are some orders that you get that it will ban you from Canada for 3 years. There are some that will ban you from Canada for 5 years. Some will ban you from Canada for life. But even that for life, safe, or the 3 years or the 5 years, there are some times you can still even dispute it. There are sometimes you can appeal. There are sometimes you can, you understand, get the decision overturned to favor you. You understand? Regardless. But I want you to understand that many of these things, they are no absolute. Don't just say it is 6 months my, you understand, visa or my travel agent told me. It is 6 months my consultant told me. It is, and because of that's just what you hold on to. We are not even telling you not to hold on to it, but all as you hold on to that 6 months, also hold on to the fact that the processing timings are dynamic. And that's all about Canada immigration and every other immigration out there. Things are dynamic. It changes. It is never static. A country that will say that you have to come to Canada at this also time, maybe that same country that will tell you that, okay, you cannot come to Canada at that also time. You cannot come to this country at that also time. There are some times that you don't have any restrictions towards what you are doing, and there's sometimes you will get restrictions on your visas. Nothing is static, nothing is fixed. It is always dynamic. Understand that. If you understand that, then you will not really put your hopes up so high, because many people put their hopes so high, and at the end of the day, when little errors or little issues crop up like this, they are flared up. You understand? Sometimes people cry. I'm not even saying you should not cry, especially women that have their emotions. You understand? Many people will cry once maybe they get one rejection. You understand? Some will be vexed, and you you have the liberty to be to show your emotions. You understand? You have the liberty to show. Is nobody can say you shouldn't show your emotions, but understand it that there are no fixed what they call it, outcomes. The fact that, okay, you get one decision now that is not in your favor does not mean that tomorrow you can't get another decision that will be in your favor. Does not mean that the timing, as it is short today, as it is very little today, 5 months, does not mean that tomorrow it won't go to 11 months, or as it is long today, maybe 19 months, does not mean that, you understand, in the next future, in the nearest future, it will not go to like 6 months. It is dynamic, it is never static. Do you understand? Understand that. So let's go to Quebec immigration now. We have said that the changes in processing times is felt more on Quebec immigration. And why did they say that? We are going to actually look at that now. Now, Ireyi Mika, thank you very much for joining and liking our live session. And Gold, I really appreciate you for liking and joining live session as well. Really appreciate. Now, the stream of Quebec immigration we are going to focus on. Number one is what? Is the Skilled Worker Selection Program, PSTQ. This is a new or a renewed program. You understand? It's a renewed program. They just started it around June of this year, June 2025. So it's still a fresh program, right? The current processing time for that program is 11 months. Just like, of course, the processing time as of September 10, 2025 is also 11 months. It's a renewed program under the Quebec immigration. So we have not really had a lot of applications like, you understand, the normal previous programs. Now, the service standard for applications submitted under the Quebec's PSTQ, submitted under what? Under this skilled worker selection program stream is what? 6 months. They want it to be as fast as 6 months. It may not be right now, but that is the what? Goal. Now, as of now, IRCC notes there are nearly 24,000 applications awaiting processing. 24,000 applications for PSTQ. You understand? That are awaiting what? Processing. So you have to note that it shows that you have to be patient. Because yes, even though IRCC are making use of AI now, they are making use of artificial intelligence, they are making use of tech, they are making use of some softwares. You have to understand that humans too would also be involved in the process. So it will take some time for the humans together with the what system, the software, the tech to actually catch up with some of these applications. Now, let's move on to other permanent residency programs like Atlantic Immigration Pilot. It's not more a pilot, Atlantic Immigration Program, AIP. The current processing time for that program is 13 months, just like the processing time as of September 10, 2025. So it will take you 1 year and 1 month, even though the AIP application have a standard processing time of what? 11 months. It increased 2 months. Now look at that. They say the service standard period, the service standard processing time is 11 months, but it is still that same website that is telling you that now it's taking 13 months. So you have to understand that even though they have some standards they are following, those standards can never always be the situation. You understand? Every time. It may be lower than that, it may be higher than that in terms of the current, you understand, issues that they're facing. Now let's look at the family sponsorship. Let's take, for instance, you are already in Canada, or in many of our cases, Nigerian brothers and sisters, they were able to meet one Canadian online and they fell in love with that Canadian, and that Canadian wants to sponsor them to come into the country. You have to understand that if you are working on family sponsorship, the processing time is quite different from other applications. Do you understand? Now, for application type, the current processing time and the processing time as of September 10, 2025 for spouse or common law partner living outside of Canada. Living inside of Canada. If you have someone that is already in Canada as a student, have someone that is already in Canada as a temporary foreign worker, or even as a visitor, and you want to sponsor that person, maybe for instance, you fell in love with a visitor and you want to sponsor the person to stay back in Canada, or you fell in love, or you had a person you wanted to adopt, and you had any which way, the processing time for people that are open to reside outside of the province of Quebec is 24 months. 24 months, 2 years. If you want to sponsor maybe like your spouse to stay back in Canada with you, it will take you 24 months of processing. That is 2 years. And before September 10, it was 23 months. Just 1 month extra was added. You understand? But when it comes to spousal application or common law application for someone living outside of Canada, inside of Canada, but outside of the province of Quebec, inside, sorry, what am I saying now? Intending to reside in, we have talked about someone that is wanting to reside outside Quebec, which is 24 months, 2 years. Now, someone that is willing to reside inside Quebec, the French province of Canada, and wants to apply for his spouse or common law partner, it will take that person 37 months, 37, 37 months, you understand, of application. Before September 10, 2025, it took 53 months. That is even longer. So we should be thankful now that now it is even shorter. But even at the shorter part, 37 months is still long. That is 3 years and 1 month. 3 good years and 1 month for you to sponsor just one person. It's very, very long. Now let's look at spouse or common law partner living outside of Canada. Now, we were talking about those that were inside Canada as students or as temporary foreign workers or as visitors, or even if possible they can apply. But let's now look at people that are living outside of Canada. If you are living outside of Canada and you have someone that wants to get married to you or wants to actually sponsor you as a boyfriend or a girlfriend or common law partner, and the person is willing to live outside of the province of Quebec, it will take that person 15 months to actually what? To actually sponsor or to be able to sponsor you. 15 months of processing. And this was just quite the same time that it will take for someone that applied before September 10th, 2025 as well. 15 months. Now that's for someone living outside of Quebec. Oh. If you are now someone that you are living inside of Quebec and you want to sponsor your spouse that is maybe in Jamaica or in Nigeria or any place, it will take that person's a processing time of 41 months. 41 good months. Oh boy. And that was quite the same time it took around September 10th, 2025. What does that mean? That means that close to 4 years to you for you to sponsor someone, because people are looking for sponsorship every time now and then. They are looking for sponsorship, but they forget that the time you are looking for sponsorship, the time you get sponsorship or you are processing sponsorship, you may have done express entry or study visa or work visa or visit visa and already been in Canada and be working and earning money, be working and supporting your family before you understand that one actually gets through. But of course, people wait for this. If you want to wait, it may take 4 years, close to 4 years, to actually reside in Quebec through the spouse or common law partner. Now, also we have the parent and grandparent program. If you are a permanent resident or even a citizen already and you want to process permanent residency for your own parents to come visit you, to come stay with you in Canada. If that person is intending to reside outside of Quebec, it will take them 26 months of processing. That is 2 years and 2 months. And that was quite the same thing before September 10th, 2025. But if that person wants to reside inside of Quebec, the French province, it will take that person 44 months, 44 months of processing. So that is about 4 years and less than 4 years, less 4 months, less than 4 years. That is 44 months, right? And that was higher in the processing time because the processing time around September 10th, 2025 was 41 months. But now they have added 3 months extra to it, which is 44 months, right? Now, the most significant change in processing time, especially for permanent residency, is where we saw a 16-month increase. It can be seen very well in the spousal sponsorship applications submitted through the spousal or common law partner living inside Canada, settling in the province of Quebec category, right? Even though the service standard for the applications to sponsor a spouse or common law partner outside Canada is always within 12 months. It was always meant to be, the service standard was always meant to be 1 year at most. But IRCC does not currently process their service standards for the other application types included in the table above. Now let's look at dependent children. Okay, you have a child that you adopted, or you have a child that you even gave birth to outside of Canada that you want to sponsor to come inside Canada. Or let's say that child is already in Canada as a visitor already, perhaps visiting you, and you want to sponsor that person. Now it will take you 12 months. That is 1 year, thank God. Before September 10th, 2025, it took 29 months to sponsor a child. That is 2 years and 5 months. But thank God they have reduced the processing time for that to just 1 year, right? Now, the processing time for applications to sponsor a dependent child from Canada has decreased significantly by a total of what? 17 months. What are they trying to tell you? They are trying to tell you that before it took times 2 plus 5 months. But now they have reduced it drastically. Now, outside Canada, let's say you want to bring a child from outside Canada. Do you understand? And different countries have their own different processing times. Different countries with their different processing times. It's not always different. But let's look at two major countries. The most invited country to Canada, which is India and Nigeria, where I come from. Now, applying from India, it will take 6 months for you to sponsor a child to come into Canada to stay with you. 6 months of processing time. If you were coming from Nigeria, if your child was coming from Nigeria, maybe you sponsored the child from Nigeria through adoption or, you understand, biological birth, it will take 18 months. That is 1 year and 6 months. That's like times three duration that it will take a child coming from India. Now, the prior processing time for India and Nigeria were not available for dependent child sponsorship because they didn't have as much applications as they have now, I believe. Now, IRCC's service standard for dependent child sponsorship applications submitted from outside the country is 12 months. It was not meant to be more than 12 months. But service standards for in Canada applications are not currently published by the immigration department. Now, we have talked extensively about permanent residency applications, right? Those were the first type of applications we mentioned that IRCC focuses on. The second type of application IRCC focuses on, which also have their own processing times mentioned here, is the temporary residents. I've told you who temporary residents are before, those that are visitors, international students, who again? Temporary foreign workers, and even refugees that have not gotten their, or asylum seekers that have not gotten approved of their refugee application. Now, visitor visas, applying from, if that person is already in Canada and the person wants to apply for visitor visa, you understand? Maybe if the person was a student, the person has actually finished his program and still wants to stay back in the country, the processing time for someone that is inside Canada to process the Canadian visa, visitor visa, is 15 days. Before it was 13 days prior to September 10, 2025, but now it is 15 days. So it's just roughly 2 weeks to get your visitor visa application submitted, reviewed, and to get your feedback from Canadian immigration website if you are inside Canada. But if you are in India, right now, for visitor visa, it will take 75 days of application. 75 days is how many months? Is what? Is 2 months and what? 2 months and 15 days. That's say roughly 2 weeks. 2 months and 2 weeks, right? Before it was 63 days prior to September 10, 2025, right? But when it comes to Pakistan, for Pakistan visitor visa, because I told you all these visas are based on the countries you're coming from. When it comes to Pakistan, 46 days is how long it's going to take based on the applications they have been having. And this was a kind of 2-day reduction from 48 days right from September 10, 2025. Now, for Nigeria, the country I am from, I'm a Nigerian, it will take 28 days. And that was a reduction of 3 days from the 31 days it would initially take prior to September 10, 2025. And yes, we have seen this. Some of our applicants, some of our clients that have gotten their visitor visas or applied, yes, it does take within a month, basically. Before 30 days it took for many people to actually get their visitor visas. Now, if you are coming from United States, it will take 23 days to actually get your visitor visa approved, you understand, instead of the 24 days it took initially. Now, the service standard for visitor visa, you may be asking, what's the service standard across board? If you submitted your application outside of Canada, the service standard was actually 14 days, just 2 weeks. But of course, every country has different processing times based on how voluminous the applications are coming from those countries, how it is easy to get, you understand, some of the verifications done on this documentation submitted and things like that. Now, number 2 is the work permit. We said once we are talking about temporary residence, the visitor visa is one of it, work permit is one of it, study permit is also one of it, and the one we are talking about now is work permit. Nigeria is the only country, look at that, they said Nigeria is the only country that saw a significant decline in work permit processing time as of October 1st, with the time it takes to get a work permit being cut in half. Now look at that. This is the opportunity that I saw, that I said a lot of people need to know about. If you can afford it, if you get a job offer, a valid job offer, you understand, and you have that skill, you can afford to actually get a job offer, you are talented, you have the skill that is necessary for you to get an LMIE sponsored job, a labor market impact assessment sponsored job. You understand? You can easily, and of course, our partner immigration consultant, our regulated Canadian immigration consultant, Kesri Immigration, he assists people to get jobs. We have seen several people he has assisted to actually get jobs right from outside Canada to work in Canada. So if you want to actually get a job, it's very much possible for you to get a job, you understand, from outside Canada in Canada. Once, of course, you have what it takes to get it. Now, for those that are, let's say, for instance, you're an international student and you want to apply for Canada work permit, you understand, so that you can be able to work in Canada, the current processing time is 196 days. 100 and what? 96 days. If we divide that divided by 30, that's how many? How many, my people? That's roughly like 6 months and 16 days. 6 months and what? 16 days. And this was even higher than the previous timings, because prior to September 10th, 2025, it was 190 days. So they added 6 days extra. From India, it will just take 8 weeks. 8 weeks to get your work permit. That's 2 months. Very short, very small, very little, right? Pakistan, it will take 12 weeks. That is 3 months. Very short, very little, just like September 10 timings. But from Nigeria, it will take 11 weeks. Less than 3 months with 1 week. And before, it could have taken from Nigeria 22 weeks. But now, divided by 2, they divided the waiting time to 2, just 2. Okay, Luli is saying, "What's up, Tyrone?" I don't know who you are asking, but hope the person that you're asking may see his name. I don't know who Tyrone is. I'm not Tyrone. So okay. So God is asking, "Can you explain super visa?" All right, thank you very much for that. Now, what is super visa? Super visa is basically a visitor visa, but a visitor visa that has a longer duration. Let me give you an example. People that we are working with to get their visitor visas now, if they get their visitor visa, forget the validity of the visitor visa. If they say, okay, based on the, even though Canada is not giving visitor visa now based on the passport again, but if assuming that they gave you a visitor visa based on your passport, maybe like for some people that have already been in Canada, and maybe you applied 2024, they gave you your visa 2025, but your passport will expire 2034. You understand? And they told you on your visitor visa that the validity of your visa is up until 2034. That does not mean when you come into Canada, you use the whole 10 years or 9 years, as the case may be. No, you have to leave Canada legally, unless you become an illegal immigrant. You have to leave Canada within 6 months. You can't stay in Canada for that stretch up until 2034. No, you have to leave Canada at most. At most. But you came in, maybe for instance, January 1st, or let's say October 1st, because we're in October. Let's say you came in October 1st. You must leave on or before April 1st. And I'm not even sure. So let's just say you must leave before 180 days expire. Let me be sure, because that's October, that April 1st now, we have more than, you understand, 180 days. So before 180 days, you must, before 6 months elapses, basically, you must leave the country with your visitor visa. But when it comes to super visa, it's quite different. And super visa, of course, is given or is applied to for fathers, for mothers, like basically your parents that you want to come into Canada, because super visa is one of the visas I wanted to do for my parents before my mom died this July. May her soul rest in peace. I wanted to do, in fact, we had started working on it. Cakes by Abena X, thank you very much for liking live on TikTok. We had started working on it, but super visa allows parents to come into the country, and at a stretch, they can live in Canada for 5 years. You understand? They can live in Canada, because what is super visa? Super visa is a kind of visitor visa that has more validity to it. And not only validity, but it also has more entry rights and livability rights, if there's anything like that, than visitor visa. Visitor visa, at once, you see the first situation I told you, there's someone that got his passport 2024 and applied. That person can stay in Canada legally for at most 6 months once that person enter. Yes, the person can now leave Canada maybe today and come to Canada tomorrow again, and the same 6 months actually starts up again. Though in a 1 year period, the person should not stay in Canada more than 6 months. Because if you stay in Canada more than 6 months, especially when they feel that why are you not staying in Canada? Because they will ask you questions at the port of entry. As a temporary resident, the visa officer would talk to you, would ask you questions. Okay, let's say for instance, a typical scenario, January 1st to June 30, you were in Canada. You now left in June 30. You now came again July 30, July 1st. You understand? They will not ask you, you have stayed in Canada for 6 months. You now want to come into Canada again as a visit. How long do you want to stay now? Many people not even going to cover themselves. You say 6 months. You say, so that means you want to spend all the days of the year. So you're not a visitor again. A visitor is someone that would come and leave. You understand? Come for some few time and leave. But you have stayed 6 months. You now still want to come inside again for the remainder part of the year. You understand? 6 months, they will be very, you understand? They may not give you the visa again. They will not give you access to, you have the visa, but they may not give you entry right. Entry right is that they may not allow you to enter the country. At the port of entry, yes, they will tell you to go back. You understand? And even if they tell you to go back, that is even good. That is if they don't even put a restriction to your visa or they don't ban you. You understand? If they put a restriction and they ban you, that visa may even be invalid. If not, if they just tell you to go back, maybe after a year or so, you can now come back again with the same visa. But if not, so when it comes to super visa, we were talking about super visa. Super visa is the one that once a visa officer sees, they know that you want to come and stay here for 5 years at a stretch. No stupid question about why do you want to do 6 months? Why do you come after? You understand what I'm trying to say? By right, a super visa, you get that super visa for your parents, for your father, for your mother, to come and stay here for 5 years. And if they have a reason, they can even stay beyond 5 years to 7 years. There's another right, there's another policy that says that they can add 2 more years to it to stay here for 7 years at a stretch. You understand? Before you renew it, or you may renew it before the validity of the 5 years expires. So it depends on the kind of visa that you actually want to apply for, whether visit visa or what, or super visa. Okay, Gold is saying I'm in Canada with super visa, but I thought I can stay in Canada for only 6 months. Well, again, as I've stated, visitor visa is one that gives you 6 months to stay in Canada, only 6 months. If you are not a parent, are you a parent? Okay, let me ask you, are you a parent? Are you a father or a mother that your child got the super visa for you? Because that is also, except if they have changed the concept of super visa that I'm not aware of. Maybe maybe I have slept on it. Let me check it on the Canadian immigration website. So I have to be sure of what I'm saying. No, they should not say it is A.O.S. It is A.O.S. that say this thing. Are you a parent or a grandparent? I like the specificity. They say grandparents. So it can be, it is for parents and grandparents. If you are not a parent or a grandparent, you understand, you can't get super visa. Okay, Gold is saying, I am happy I come across your live program. Oh, thank you very much, man. Really appreciate it. So look at this. Look at this. I'm reading on the Canadian immigration website now. They said super visa for parents and grandparents. Parents and grandparents can visit their children or grandchildren for 5 years at a time with a super visa. Look at what I'm saying. I just put it on on Google. I wrote super visa, and that is the first thing you see on Google, as it shows on the Canada.ca website. On the Canada.ca website, if you go on it, it will show you exactly what I'm saying now. It says, and this was something they put on May 7, 2025 on the update of the Canadian immigration website. They said super visa for parents and grandparents. Parents and grandparents can visit their children or grandchildren for 5 years at a time with a super visa. Abi? Okay, she says, yes, I am a parent. Yes, I read it there too. Fakati, what you read there is from the official Canadian immigration website. What you read there is the thing that they use to back up what back for a rose. Oh, okay. I don't know. City4 is saying back for a rose on TikTok. If you are a parent in Canada and you got the super visa is valid for 5 years. That means you can visit it's a visitor visa, of course, but it's visitor visa that has more duration, more authority, more policy to back up your claim to say, yes, I'm a super visa and I'm staying here for 5 years. Nothing doing, no shaking. You understand? You can stay here legally. It's not illegal. Legally, you can stay here for five. And I told you that even though they say 5 years, depending on some visas, you can also stretch it to 7 years. It depends on the visa, or it depends on the content. I don't know your type of visa that you got. You can even stretch it for 7 years before you now renew, and that is even if they allow renewal. If you cannot renew, you may have to work on another. But even 5 years sef, you go sef before before that one sef finish. You understand? So okay, God is still also saying, but what confused me is that at port of entry I entered 6 months. Whether you enter 6 months, mama me or baba me, whether you enter 6 months or not at the port of entry, they may ask you, of course, because it's a visit visa. Understand this, it is a visit visa, but it has more rights. They may ask you that how long do you plan to stay. You may say 6 months, especially if you have put there that yes, you had a job in your own country where you were doing working, or maybe for instance they had what do you call it. It is only, look at it, it is only when the visa officer stamps 6 months. Ehen. It is only when they stamp it wey is 6 months. Now they have actually rewritten the right or the policy. If they, and I don't think they would always write stamp 6 months to you. Did they stamp 6 months? Okay, it must be 6 months you must stay. Oh. If they stamp it on the visa, on the passport, or on the paper that they gave you, the visitor visa, so that it is 6 months you will stay, then issue. If it is written in your super visa that okay, valid from, maybe for instance, July 1st, 2025, when it is issued, and the validity is that it will do December 30, like you have to leave Canada December 30, 2025. That is when, okay, she said, no, my passport is not, your passport cannot even be stamped safe. But anytime they will stop that kind of thing, you have to be careful. Maybe they think you're a criminal, or they think that you have medical issues that will affect it. But even though super visas is designed in a way that you get insurance before you do it, like your child, not you actually, your child has to get insurance for you. You understand? Your child has to show that yes, you are not going to be a burden, a medical burden or a healthcare burden to the what? To the government of Canada when you land. Your child is the one that is in charge of your what? That is in charge of your upkeep, right? So the way it is set up, the way super visas are set up, is set up that whether you stay in this country for 6 months, you leave the country, you can leave, but it's not, understand it. Your super visa gives you the right to stay in Canada for 5 years. But if you say, I'm on nothing spoil now, my brother is doing Owambe in US. If you have the US visa, you can go to US. Go and enjoy yourself. Come back again. You understand? Or you say, okay, they do one, just like the one that Leader Ibasi did. Hilda Ibasi, wetin they call her name sef. Hilda Ibasi go UK. Say she wan go dey cook jollof rice. You can go to UK. Go shop jollof rice. Come back again after some time. Say, okay, e don tire you. You still wan come Canada come rest with your super visa. That's why they call it super. You no hear the word? The word is super. Super. You understand? With your super visa, you have the right, you understand, to stay indefinitely. Nobody go hold you. Nobody fit hold you. You have the right to stay in what? In the province of, I said in the province, in Canada rather. within the stretch of 5 years. Okay, let's continue. We have talked extensively about that super visa. Let's really continue to what we have today, because that is very, very important so that we don't skip. So, all right, Canada states on its website again that United States, yes, United States, if you are applying for work permits from United States, it will take just 3 weeks. That's like, I think, the shortest. It will take just 3 weeks for you to process your work permit from Canada, from the US, right? Now, IRCC's service standards for work permit applications from within Canada is 120 days, including initial work permit applications and extensions. But when it comes to outside Canada work permits, applications have a service standards of what? Of 160 days. Do you understand? 160 days. I say 160 of 60 days. Sorry, of 60 days, not 160, of 60 days, except which kind of ones now? International Except the international what? The International Experience Canada, which is IEC permits, which have a 56-day service standard. Now, study permits, we really have a lot to do. Let's talk about study permits. Study permits applications coming from Canada will take 7 weeks. You understand the current processing times, just like the other processing times of September 10, which is 6 weeks. For India, if you are coming from India, study permits from India will take 4 weeks, just 1 month. When you are from Pakistan, it will take 9 weeks. That means 2 months and 1 month, 1 week. When you are from Nigeria, it will take 8 weeks, which is 2 months. When you are from the US, it will take 10 weeks. And the processing time for in Canada study permit application, you understand, are for what? Initial study permit. Okay, hi King Badu. Hi King Badu on TikTok. As of October 1st, September, King Badu says, good evening, sir. Yeah, good evening, sir. Study permit extensions have a what? Have a 171-day processing time. 171 day. It will take 171 day to what? 171 day to actually process extensions, study permit. Like, you have been in Canada, you have been studying maybe for like a year or two, and you want to extend of a few months, you want to extend that processing time, that study permit, you can apply for it and they can process it basically within what? Within 170 what? 171 days, right? Now, when it comes to service standards, the service standards for study permit applications, whether be the initial and the extension submitted from inside Canada, the service standards is 120 days, and 120 days is how many months? It's 4 months. While application submitted from abroad has a service standards of 60 days, which is from abroad, or 60 days, which is what? Which is 2 months, right? Just 2 months. So, King Badu says, King, please, what about Canada? I don't know. What about Canada? Maybe I should be asking you the question. What about Canada? I don't know what you mean by what about Canada. So, please, what about Canada too? Maybe if you can clarify. Now, super visas. Yes, we were talking about super visas when the question came that what is the validity of super visa? I mean, how did she say? She said she has a super visa. Now, applying from India, if you're applying from India, super visas processing times takes 153 days. And this has increased from September 10, 2025, which was just 139 days. Now, Pakistan is 151 days right now, which has also increased significantly. You understand? It has increased significantly because it was 112 days initially, just 112 days. Now, Nigeria has also improved. Instead of 52 days, instead of 55 days as of September 10, 2025, now it is just 50 what? It is just 52 days. Okay, King Badu says, I want to get information about Canada. So that's why I'm asking that question, because I just write. Okay. Everything we are saying on this channel is about Canada. Everything we are saying, most of what we are saying, 90% or 95% of what we are saying in this channel is about Canada. all what we have been saying right from when we started this live session is about Canada. I'm not talking about any other country. I'm talking about Canada. So if you want to learn about Canada, if you want information about Canada, listen to what we are saying about Canada. If you listen to what we are saying about Canada, you learn about Canada. And now we are talking about Canada Super Visa, a visa that allows parents and grandparents to stay in Canada for 5 years at a stretch. It allows our parents, our grandparents to visit their children for a 5 year duration. To be able to, let's say, for example, today is October 8th, Abby, and you get a visa that says that, okay, oh, Mr. and Mrs. Kogberegbe, we want you to come into Canada, or maybe it's not that we want, it's the child that you have in Canada that is either a permanent resident, or the child that you have in Canada that is what? That is a citizen, right? It is that child that can process what we know as the what? As the super visa for you, right? If your child is in Canada and that your child is already a citizen of Canada, if that your child is already a permanent resident of Canada, that your particular child can sponsor your visa to come into Canada and stay here for 5 good years. King Badu, thank you very much for liking our live session on TikTok. That your child can be instrumental in making sure that you, as the parent of that child, would stay in Canada legally. Legally, you understand? And be able to become what? To be able to stay as a visitor in Canada for what? For 5 years. So if you are applying for super visa for your parents or grandparents from US, they can come into Canada, or they can process their super visa. Canada can process their super visa for 78 what? For 78 days now. Before it took 89 days, but now it has reduced to what? 78 days. Now, between September 10 and October 1, the processing time for a super visa application submitted from Pakistan has increased by nearly 6 weeks. For super visa, the what? The immigration department has a service standard of what? Of 112 days. Do you understand? 112 days. Now, citizenship. Let's talk about citizenship. We talked about the three types of applications. We talked about the three types of ways, the three types of applications IRCC focuses on. The number one way they focus on is temporary residents, people that want to come here and stay for a few months, few weeks, or even few years, whether as international students to study in Canada, or as visitor visa to tour the country, or as work permit holder to become a temporary foreign worker. Okay, King Badu say, I want to go and work in Canada. So I am asking more questions. If you want to go and work in Canada, many people that come into Canada as a tourist, they go and work. If you mean work, W-A-L-K, if you mean work, they go and work, because you can go for hiking, you can go for various what do you call it? Now? Tourist attraction activities that will allow you to walk. You do a lot of work. Some people go to the Maybach, they go to walk around there. W-A-L-K, they go to walk there, they go to hike, they go to mountains, they go to climb, and you understand, several things. So if you want to come to Canada to work, you can also actually get your visitor visa. Now, citizenship. Citizenship in Canada. If, for example, you applied for what you know as citizenship grants, you understand, the current processing time for citizenship grant is 13 months. Even though prior to September 10, 2025, it will take 11 months, right? Now, citizenship certificate, the proof of citizenship. If you want to get the proof of citizenship, whether you were a permanent resident before and you applied through naturalization to become a citizen, you can apply and become a citizen within 7 months now. Before it was just 5 months, but now they have added 2 months extra to the processing time. These are for permanent residents like me that have stayed for more than 3 years or up to 3 years in Canada, or 1,096 days, you understand, and are qualified to apply for what? For citizenship. Now, the service standard for citizenship grant applications. Alhamdulillah. So the service standards for citizenship grant application is 12 months. So IRCC does not publish service standards for what? For citizenship certificate. Now, processing times and service standards. Thank you, King Badu. I see you liking our live session on TikTok. The service standards and processing times. The processing times published by IRCC represent the anticipated time of length of time required to finalize a new application if they are received today, for example. So these times are determined using both the historical data and the number of applications currently in inventory. Processing time begins on the date IRCC receives your application, and it ends once a decision has been made. For mailed-in application that is coming through paper, this starts when the package is delivered to the what? To the mail room. While for online or in-person application, it begins at the moment of what? At the moment of submission. Oh, presser. Wow, this is a new kind of question. Someone is asking, are you an Indian citizen? Do I look like an Indian? Do I look like an Indian? I don't think so. Or maybe people should tell me. Please, do I look like an Indian? Am I someone that you think that I would say all this nehi, kaumil gaya, all these things like that? We're watching their movies. So that's how I got to know about these things. Well, I am not an Indian citizen, right? I am not an Indian citizen. I didn't come from the South Asia or southern part of Asia or southwestern Asia. I didn't come from Asia, basically. I came from Africa. I am an African, right? And more specifically, I am a Nigerian. Do you understand? More specifically as well, I am also a Lagosian, right? So I am not an Asian, not an Indian, not a Southeastern Asian, Southwestern Asian, or South Asian, right? Okay, let's move on. So they said various factors can affect application processing time, such as how easily IRCC can verify an applicant's information and whether an applicant responds to requests for additional information in a timely manner. IRCC provides two types of processing times. Number one, the historical processing times, and this type of processing time is based on how long it took IRCC, Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, to process 80% of their applications, their immigration applications in the past. And these are the ones that they are updated weekly. Number two, the forward-looking processing times. Forward-looking processing times are calculated using IRCC's current inventory, which includes the total volume of each application type, still awaiting processing, and the number expected to be finalized each month, right? Now, the table below shows which application types use forward-looking processing times. Number one application for forward-looking processing time is Canadian Experience Class. Number two is Federal Skilled Worker Program. Number three is Provincial Nominee Program. Express Entry linked, which is the enhanced, and the non-express entry, which is the base program. We also have the Quebec Skilled Worker Program, or the Quebec Skilled Worker Selection Program, the PSTQ. We also have the spouse or common law partner living outside of Canada and those living inside of Canada. We also have Parents and Grandparents Program, the PGP. We have the Citizenship Grant, and we have the Proof of what? Citizenship. Now, the service standards. They said, in contrast, service standards represent internal benchmarks for the Immigration Department. IRCC's published service standards refer to the time within which the department aims to process 80% of applications of a given type. And the department service standards allow that 20% of applications will take longer to process rather, due to factors such as what additional complexities. Not all immigration programs have publicly accessible service standards. All right, with that, we come to the end of today's conversation. Did you enjoy today's conversation? Do you have any questions as regards to today's conversation? If you do, please kindly ask your question now, or even later on, you can put it on the comment section and we can respond to it as soon as we get them, right? All right, so we have a question from Joseph Annie. He says, hi Joseph Annie, can you give me your WhatsApp number? As we say time and time again, we don't give people WhatsApp numbers. If you want to reach out to us, you are very, very much welcome to reach out to us. Just go easily on our profiles, whether you are reaching out to us from LinkedIn, from YouTube, from Facebook, from Instagram, from TikTok. Go on our bio on any of those platforms. Click on the link you see there, and from the link, you'll be able to have access to our various contact informations that we are willing to actually share with you. If you want to talk to us, you can always book a 5 minute free clarity call, and from there we can respond to some of your queries. Go on our profile, click on the link there, and you are going to be able to actually get some of our contacts through that platform. All right, thank you very much, everyone. Once again, don't forget that every week we come on live, you understand, to you and talk with you as regards Canadian immigration, as about travels, language studies, exam preparations, and things like that. And at least we come on live at least once every week. At least that's the minimum. Sometimes we do 2 live interviews, live sessions. We do 3 live sessions. It depends on when we get trending topics like this to come discuss, or when we have anything to pass across with you. And don't forget, we have various questions and answers being answered or being provided in on our what they call it, on our pages. You can go on our pages on social media. You can send us an email on admin@aosacademy.com. You understand? You can go on our profiles, on our bios once again, to check our clarity calls. Once you book the clarity call, the 5 minutes free clarity call, you'll be able to reach out to us on the back end. You understand? All right. That being said, once more, thank you very much. Don't forget to like this, comment on it if you have any questions, and share with your friends and family. Let more and more people know about this, and we do hope to see you in our next live session. Thank you very much, everyone, once again.